90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. Just like old times today, back to the Zoom days for when we did 20 months of shows via Zoom every Monday here on From the Press Box. We thank Sean Novat for getting us on the air because as of right now, I have COVID. And I've been taking medication. I had the shots, but somehow I still got it. I'm taking about, 10 or 12 pills, more than 10 or 12 pills. I'm taking the aspirin and, well, not aspirin, but I'm taking vitamins and everything else in between, brother. It's
everything, brother.
Everything. It's just, it's just there, it's just there. And I feel a lot better than I did on Thursday. Wednesday, I slept all day. Literally, I was so tired. But they say that's what happens. You get tired.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
Hopefully you recover quickly.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm basically done. I think. I mean, I don't know. Well, they said the paperwork they gave me said 5 days, brother. So,
yes, brother.
And then they say wear a mask for the other 5 days if you go outside. So, I probably will go outside.
How about you don't, bro?
Well, Tim, I feel okay. So what do I worry about?
I worry about other people. You should too.
Well, I might, brother. I know you've always been nervous about COVID.
No, so. It's a very contagious illness, brother. Very contagious. So think about other people.
I do, brother. I think of my brother. Haircut's too short, brother. By the way.
Thank you, brother.
So. How was the weekend? We went down to see the cousins. How was it?
Had a good time. A lot of driving in 2 days, but it was a good time.
Well, that's good. Any traffic on the way back?
It wasn't too bad. It was just a longer drive because we were coming back from outside of DC in Virginia. So it basically added another hour to the trip.
Yeah. Okay. Well. I was going to be there, but the COVID disallowed me.
Well,
and hopefully you'll be there during sometime in the summer.
Saw all the kids and celebrated baby Dawn's first birthday. So it was a good time. Good time to have by all.
And we want to congratulate, brother, the Colorado Avalanche. As they won the Stanley Cup Game 6 last night. And they are now the champions of the NHL, stopping the Tampa Bay Lightning from their continuing challenge to maybe have a continuous 19 series win in a row, like the New York Islanders. So, not that they were close, but they were closer than most people were along the way. Most teams, I should say.
Any team that wins back-to-back, apparently they're going to start talking about the Islanders, which I thought was ridiculous in the first place. If you look at what happened with the Lightning, they won 11 series in a row. I mean, they barely got more than halfway there.
But that's more than most people get now, brother.
Yeah, but, hey, the Lightning are a very good team. They're still going to be very good next season, but it takes some luck. It takes a very good team, and it takes a little bit of luck as well. And one aspect of the Islanders' great run from back in the 80s that really isn't discussed very much is the amount of extra games that you have to play. And people talked about Tampa Bay is kind of beat up, and their health wasn't 100%. And that's an aspect that comes from playing so many extra games in a season. I mean, the Islanders, by the time they were done, and by the time they had won four cups in a row and then went to the finals the fifth year, by that fifth year, they had played pretty much an additional season's worth of games in those 5 years compared to any other NHL team. And it wasn't like they kept beating the same team over and over again. It was all different teams. So here the Islanders are playing this enormous number of extra games, and they were doing it every year. And with the other teams in the finals, it was always somebody else. So nobody else was playing nearly as many games as the Islanders played. And by the time the Edmonton Oilers were able to beat the Islanders that year were beat up and very injured, and age was starting to take its toll. So that's the aspect of this record that really makes it close to unbreakable as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you're going to have to build a team and maintain a team, not just build one.
It doesn't happen anymore. That's one of the problems, or maybe one of the advantages. I mean, we grew up with the Islanders. They're our team still. 40 years later. So and no one is going to beat that. And think about who I think they beat. Let's say they beat the Flyers in 81 or 82 is the North Stars. 83 was the Oilers. In 84 they lost to the Oilers. I forgot there was one other team. I've got the other team there. I don't have access to a computer.
We'll find it.
Since we are broadcasting from home.
Right.
So just like the old days. So anyway, so the Avs win Game 6, and the fact that it was on Sunday night for the NHL, one of the premier night you want people to watch sports or anything really, says a lot for the NHL. I think they're this contract, the new contract they got with ABC and TNT, and includes the ESPN in there too, was a better deal than the NBC one. Though I thought NBC did a great job covering them also. So
yeah. By the way, brother, you forgot the Vancouver Canucks.
That's it. Vancouver Canucks.
That was a 4-game sweep in 1982.
Yes, and I guess the North Stars were 81 then. So
yes, that is correct. Yeah. And then the Oilers, they swept the Oilers in 83, and then the Oilers beat the Islanders 4-1 in 84.
It's hard to believe they swept the Oilers. Think of that team, and a lot of people do. A lot of people say, "Oh, the Edmonton Oilers, the last great team." No, the Islanders. But if you get to, they also swept them in 83. So I mean, sorry Wayne, sorry Messier.
Yeah, and people like think that the Oilers were. I mean, they certainly were the next great team, but they won 2 cups in a row, and then the Canadians won it, and then Edmonton won 2 cups in a row after that as well. So Edmonton probably could have won 5 cups. I don't know what happened to them in '86, but they weren't even in finals in '86.
Yeah, so I mean that's if they had won that, hey, they deserve all the great coverage they would get.
Of course, absolutely.
So, and you actually covered the Avs a long time ago, brother, in one of their last Stanley Cups, right?
In 2001. I mean, that was the year they beat the Devils in a 7-game series, and that was the big year, one of the big stories for that season was that the Avalanche had acquired Ray Bourque from the Bruins, and Ray Bourque had to leave Boston to achieve hockey immortality and win a Stanley Cup because everybody knew the Bruins weren't going to get it done because they were a fairly mismanaged franchise for a long time. I mean, you could probably argue that they still are, but that's they just kind of kept getting in their way, and Ray Bourque wanted to win a Stanley Cup, so he had to leave Boston, and he wound up going to Colorado, and they had a very good team that year, but still only beat the Devils in a Game 7 situation. So I remember though that the thing I remember about that series is just how much work there was and how little sleep there was, because we would cover a game out in Colorado, and it wasn't fun after the game. It was write your story as quickly as possible and then race to the airport to catch a red eye back to New York. And then by the time you get back, it's morning. We would go home, sleep 3 hours or something, and then it was back to Devils practice in the morning. And people forget the NHL players, they're all flying on charters. So the plane leaves when they want it to leave, and they get home and they're all ready to go. I mean, it's like, I'm not going to say they were getting a lot of sleep before practice, but they certainly were getting more than we were. So, that was what I remember. I'll save the other stories because, there's other stuff we need to talk about. But, that was, it was tough, tough more than a week. So, it was just work, write stories, write more stories, cover game, and then, like I said, it was at some point it was get on a plane, fly to Colorado, then fly back in the middle of the night, in the morning, and don't sleep much.
Woe is my brother's covering of...
It's not the glamorous life everybody thinks it is.
Everyone thinks it's Oscar Madison, brother.
Yeah, well, not really, but...
Or Ray Barone.
Well, one or the other. Ray Barone never actually worked, so I don't know.
Occasionally he worked. Occasionally you saw him at a game. And then his wife would visit him, and of course, hilarity ensued. Yeah, but Ray for a guy who's supposed to be covering sports, sometimes watch TV. That was it.
Yeah, exactly. So it was.
Even sports columnists still have to go to the games occasionally.
Yes.
Anyway, you're listening to From the Press Box, by the way. I forgot to mention that, brother. I'm Rob Leonard. He's Tim Leonard, award-winning sports writer. Or Tim Leonard, award-winning sports writer Tim Leonard, I guess is the best way to look at it.
Exactly.
Anyway, we're here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., talking sports on 90.3 WHPC. It becomes a podcast later on. And yes, it's a podcast, Steve Mantracina. I just keep getting in arguments over... is it a podcast? And I said, anything that's on demand is a podcast. Anyway, the NBA draft happened this past week, brother. I'm not sure what the Knicks were up to. All I know is that Stephen A. Smith is a colorful man to watch on these broadcasts.
Put it that way, brother. Feel free, but that's
yes,
not how
I do. I do put it that way because he was acting like it was all. I don't want to say personal, that they were personally doing things to mess with his head. And then I was thinking of Chris Redd's great impersonation of him on Saturday Night Live. He has him down to the T. But Stephen A. Smith was going crazy. But then again, you're here to tell us exactly what happened because I'm not really sure what happened. They traded people, or maybe they didn't trade people, or I don't know. Maybe they went outside of, the giant construction that's happening right outside of Madison Square Garden and stood there and tried to explain it to the people passing by. I don't know. I have no idea. So I'm going to let you explain what happened, brother.
I wouldn't go that far because the Knicks don't really try that hard to explain anything they do. I'm still looking for quotes from Leon Rose, who somehow is being allowed to just have a free pass in terms of, well, I'm not going to talk to the media and I'm not going to explain what I'm doing. So it's hard. It's hard for anybody to actually understand what the Knicks are doing when their president refuses to speak to the media. So as far as I'm concerned, you can add incompetent to the word coward when you're talking about Leon Rose, because if the guy doesn't know what he's doing and he refuses to explain his actions, well, then who's minding the Knicks, as the saying what might go, because I'm still not 100% sure as far as what they're doing. I understand the explanation that they put out via press release. It wasn't even an interview. I mean, I don't know. First of all, I don't know why Leon Rose is such a coward that he won't talk to the media. But the problem that we're having in regards to the New York Knicks is the explanation that was put forth was that they had a couple of players that they liked in the draft. Those players had been selected by the time the Knicks' turn came at number 11. So they pivoted and decided to shed salary and prepare themselves more for free agent acquisitions. Now, the Knicks aren't close. This is my problem, or one of my problems with the Knicks, is they continue to operate like a franchise that is one player away from being a contender.
Well, maybe 2 years ago, brother, but not last year.
They're not. They're not one player away. They're more like 3 players away. And you're not going to get those players in free agency. I mean, basically, the NBA salary cap was created so that teams could not go on that kind of shopping spree, and could not just say, all right, well, we're awful now, but we're going to go out and buy the three top free agents and instantaneously turn ourselves into a contender. It doesn't work like that in the NBA. It just doesn't. So the Knicks wound up selecting a guy by the name of Ousmane Dieng at number 11, immediately traded him to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and got 3 conditional first-round draft picks. Now, they traded one of those picks and 4 second-round picks to the Charlotte Hornets for the number 13 pick. And then they traded that pick, they're for the 13. They traded that 13 pick plus Kemba Walker to the Detroit Pistons for Milwaukee's 2025 first round pick. So that was important because they wanted to get Kemba Walker's salary off the books and create some room to make at least one free agent signing. To me, it was too much to do just to get Kemba Walker. It's not like Kemba Walker's making significant money. The guy's making it's a little over $9 million next year. In NBA terms, $9 million is nothing.
It's nothing.
So
tip money.
Yeah. So to do everything they did and to basically give away the number 11 pick and to come out of this draft without any kind of significant upgrade, to Knicks fans, it felt like a waste. And maybe it is the right thing to do if there's nobody left that you like and there's nobody you think is going to make an impact on your team, then sure, maybe this is a way to go. But the picks that they got, I'm not even sure if they're actually going to use them. It would seem to me like if you're gathering that many picks and you're amassing so many first rounders, and there are other teams that are doing this, but they're not doing it to use the picks. They're doing them to trade those picks in the future and to at some point do some moving and shaking and make something happen, be it in the future draft or just somewhere down the road, the Knicks are going to make a trade, or at least they'll want to make a trade where they will trade at least 2 or 3 first-round picks in the hopes of obtaining a star player. I have no idea who that star player is. It frightens me that the quote-unquote star player could be Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie Irving right now is a Nets problem, a Brooklyn Nets problem. And he has shown he is not a guy that you can build a franchise around because he's not going to stay for more than 3 years.
Right. And also, you know what? Kyrie Irving, when I think of him right now, I don't think of the great player he can be. I think of the guy who refuses to get shots, who's bitching and moaning and complaining about everything. I don't know, man. It can't be just that he went to Brooklyn and he turned this way.
He's to me right now, his focus is on what he can do to not play basketball as opposed to winning titles. Because since he's been with the Nets, he hasn't even played half of the games in Brooklyn on Brooklyn's schedule. So, but the other problem here, see the Knicks. Let me just get back to the Knicks for 1 second. The Knicks are rumored to be going after Jalen Brunson, who is a free agent from the Dallas Mavericks. As far as I know about Jalen Brunson's situation, whatever he's offered, the Mavericks can at least match. And I would think that Brunson would want to stay with the Mavericks over the Knicks. Now, there are issues in play. One of those issues is that Brunson's father is a Knicks assistant coach. And Brunson does have ties to the Knicks organization. And one of those ties being Leon Rose. And you know, the families go way back between the Rose family and the Brunson family. So is that enough to sway Brunson to go to the Knicks? Now, if the offers were equal, if it's me, unless I desperately wanted to play for my father, I would take the Mavericks offer. And I'm sticking with Luka Doncic, who is by far the best player for either team. But if the Knicks have it in their head, and by the Knicks I mean Leon Rose, that he's going to do an old family friend a favor and overpay him to come to the Knicks, then to me it's a mistake bordering on malpractice. Because while I like Jalen Brunson as a player and as a point guard, he is not a guy that you'd offer a max contract to or anything even close to a max contract. He's not that good. Right. And if the Knicks decide that, all right, he's going to be our guy and we're going with him, and he's the guy who's going to lead us to the promised land, he's not going to do it. And if that's the Knicks' big play, then buckle up for another decade of mediocrity, because this is not a guy. He's not a top 10 point guard in the league. I'm not even sure if he's a top 20 point guard in the league. And if you're going to give him huge money, then you're utilizing your resources in the wrong way. Now, the other possibility is if Kyrie Irving doesn't opt into his contract with the Nets, then he becomes a free agent, and he would be able to sign with other teams for not as much money as he'll make with the Nets, but that would open the door to Kyrie Irving becoming a free agent. And obviously the Knicks would be interested, but like I said, you could sign Kyrie to as long a deal as the NBA will permit, which as far as I know is 5 years, could be 4 years. But he doesn't finish these contracts.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he's been a Net for what, 3 years? He already wants out. So how do you build around a guy who you can't trust to stay more than 3 years?
Well, maybe just give him a 3-year contract then. I mean, I think one of the things
it takes time to build a championship. Look at the Nets. Everybody thought the Nets were going to win titles. They got Kevin Durant. They got Kyrie. Then they added James Harden, and everybody said, "Oh my God, super team! Look at this. Who's going to beat the Nets?" Well, turns out it didn't take much to beat the Nets. Between the injuries, between Kyrie missing most of last season with the COVID and not refusing to get vaccinated, so you're looking at a situation where this is a guy who you can't rely on him to be the centerpiece of your team. So, I don't know why the Knicks would look at it that way and say, oh, well, Kyrie is a guy we can trust, and Kyrie is a guy who we can have faith in to be.
But you know what
leader.
the Knicks might think, brother, and this is where they sometimes think is they can say, well, we got Kyrie. He's going to do better for us.
But he won't.
That was Brooklyn he was with. He's now with the Knicks.
Let's put it this way, brother. If Kyrie Irving decides that he's not going to opt into his deal with the Nets, then that means Kyrie Irving will have left LeBron James and Kevin Durant as teammates. Arguably the two best players in the NBA, or especially the two best players not named Steph Curry. How do you leave teammates like that? The only reason is because he's selfish.
Well, he'd be easier to be selfish on the Knicks than on the Nets.
But that's not what you want. I mean, he's too much of a head case to build around. He's too unreliable to build around. He's just, I don't make that call with my $1 billion franchise. To me, he's not the right guy. I can't put that kind of trust and faith in him to be that guy. But what do you do with Julius Randle, who is a guy who's been operating for the last couple seasons with the ball in his hand, and revolted last year because he didn't have the ball in his hand as much as he did the year before. Well, Kyrie on the team, he's never going to get the ball in his hand.
That's true.
So
that's true.
If you get
Kyrie, play with the ball.
If you get Kyrie, you almost have to trade Julius Randle because then he's going to become a problem. If you think Julius Randle was a problem last year, wait until you put him on a team with Kyrie Irving. That'll be a nightmare. Chemistry
That's a good
issues.
point.
The chemistry issues would never stop.
No, and this isn't. A lot of people then bring up, well, look what happened with Earl the Pearl and Walt Frazier, but they were different players and they weren't head cases,
Well, I mean, but Julius Randle is he's a forward. He's not a guard. So I mean, the comparison isn't the same.
It's about sharing the ball, brother.
But Julius Randle is a guy who, like I said, he's been operating for the last 2 years with the ball mostly in his hands. And until the Knicks get a legitimate point guard, and Kyrie Irving certainly would be a legitimate point guard, but if Kyrie Irving comes to the Knicks, I told you last year that Randle's numbers would go down with the improvement and the development of R.J. Barrett. Well, if you bring Kyrie Irving into the mix, Randle's numbers are going to plummet. And Knicks fans will be all over him, but he's not going to have the ball. So that's why his numbers are going to go down even further.
Yeah. Good point, brother. Good point. What about the rest of the NBA draft? Anything special in your eyes?
Well, I mean, it started off a little bit of a surprise. I don't know how many people were expecting the Orlando Magic to select Paolo Banchero from Duke with the first pick. I think most people kind of thought that the Magic would go with Jabari Smith. I see the logic in Banchero just because he is or was considered the most NBA ready player of the so-called big three in this draft. And some people still see Chet Holmgren out of Gonzaga as a project. I mean, he's a guy who you can't not notice the body. He's 7'1" and 195 pounds.
Sean Bradley.
He is a stick. And I think most people thought the Magic were gonna go with Jabari Smith Jr. out of Auburn, 6'10", but a great shooter. A guy who can work the perimeter. He's very much a modern NBA kind of player who can do a lot of different things. Can shoot from the perimeter, has size. But instead, it was Banchero going first, and then Holmgren going second to the Thunder, and Smith went third to the Rockets. And Jaden Ivey is a guard out of Purdue, was supposedly coveted by the Knicks, but the Knicks weren't able to work out a trade to move up to either 4 or 5, and Ivey went number 5 to the Detroit Pistons. It was kind of nice because Ivey's mom actually was a great player for Notre Dame. And she was up doing the interview with him, and there were a lot of players, or I don't want to say a lot, but several players in this year's draft who had moms who had significant basketball experience. And we're at that point now with the WNBA being in its 25th season where we're probably going to see more of that. Where you see, college players and WNBA players, because Jaden Ivey's mom is named Niele Ivey. And, she played at Notre Dame. She played in the WNBA for several seasons. And so, when you say that Jaden Ivey grew up around the game, he grew up in the WNBA because he was going to his mom's practices. And then when Niele Ivey became a coach, he was there, with her as she was a coach. And, it was, you like I said, you're going to see more of that where it's not only the father who was the basketball influence, but it's going to be a lot more of the mother as the basketball influence.
Well, that's true. And also one thing I noticed about the presentation of the draft was lots of things with parents, or the mothers or the fathers, as part of the interview. It wasn't just a player.
Well, I mean, that's just a TV thing.
Yeah, but that's part of the presentation. You want to. It's showing that you're more of a family league instead of something else. I mean, you find out, these guys have parents. Because a lot of times they don't talk about the parents or whatever. So it was a good presentation. They showed a lot of footage of when the kid was a young child playing basketball or whatever. It was just because now every day, with a cell phone, the Apple phone, you can shoot a game on your cell phone. Imagine we had footage of us playing soccer when we were kids, brother.
Well, I mean, the extreme on that was Chet Holmgren. I mean, his father has videotaped pretty much every game Chet has played. And they were talking about his video camera and how he got an upgrade at some point, and ESPN gave him some kind of video award, or I don't even know what it was. It was kind of ridiculous, but I mean, a part of all that, and it was good to see. It was good to see so many fathers being represented, because there is that stereotype that the fathers don't necessarily stick around. So that was nice to see. It was a lot of couples that were involved. It wasn't just a single mother. That again, the stereotype, but it's a stereotype for a reason. So that part I liked. There was a lot of representation from dads in at the draft. I mean, my only issue with how the draft was presented on TV is these interviews. They bring all these people down. They brought the player, and usually it was one of the parents. But it was like one or two questions, and then it was such a rushed, hurried interview, and there were a couple players who wound up being very emotional and crying and whatever. And if that was going on, then the interview barely lasted 30 seconds. So,
part of it also, brother, is that first of all, you had three channels covering. You had the ESPN, you had ABC, and I believe NBA TV were showing it too. So these people had to be brought around. Second of all, they wanted a 3-hour show. So they got it. It was a little bit over 3 hours, 3 hours and 3 minutes or something. Right. So they wanted it they wanted round one to be 3 hours exactly and then get off. So that might have been part of the reason. I have to say that, Adam Silver came out very quickly, along the way, because, it's not like, okay, we're going to wait 15 minutes and then, Pete Rozelle.
There was only 5 minutes between picks.
Yeah,
right. If you want a 3-hour show, you can't have 15 minutes in between picks like it used to be.
Right. So that's part of it too, because it's on TV. You can't have Stephen A. Smith going crazy every 15 minutes. Well, actually, you can, but
you don't want that. You don't want that for your television presentation. And I mean, I thought it was comical and clownish for Stephen A. Smith to be going just so crazy about the Knicks during a broadcast. I mean, he's supposed to be, whatever he is for ESPN these days. I know at one point he was their basketball guy.
Right.
So for Stephen A. Smith to be going on and on about the Knicks and to be displaying his fandom on a show that he was working. I mean, he was working the draft. He wasn't there to be a Knicks fan. He was there to be an ESPN employee. So he shouldn't have been sitting there praying with Spike Lee when the Knicks were about to make the 11th pick. And he shouldn't have been just almost silent and looking like he was about to cry after the Knicks picked Ousmane Dieng. That was a time for analysis. That was the time to, if nothing else, say, throw up your hands and say, look, I don't know what they're doing. I have no clue what they're doing. But whatever it is, it's not good. That to me, do that. But don't sit there and continue to say, my New York Knicks.
Well,
that's not the time or the place.
I didn't mind the presentation. I thought it was kind of funny. I don't really know much about Stephen A. I don't follow him the way other people do, but I thought it was kind of funny. At the same time, I thought by the end it was just really overbearing. There's lots of other stories happening.
It got
for the
clownish.
NBA.
It really did get clownish, as far as I'm concerned. Fine. If you want to say that afterwards, if you want to use that kind of stuff as analysis after the fact, the next day, day after stuff about the draft, that's fine. But while it's going on and while you're covering it as a live event, to me, it goes against everything that a journalist is supposed to be.
Well, he's not. He's a TV personality, brother.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it's evolved into at this point.
You're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. From the press box on your listening device, whether it's 90.3 FM, nccradio.org, the iHeartRadio app, Odyssey.com, TuneIn.com, or our friend Alexa. If you say, hey, Alexa, help us out, find From the Press Box. Alexa will help you out and put you on to WHPC. We're here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. The podcast comes later on. And my name is Rob Leonard, and he is my brother, Tim Leonard. So, brother, what's going on with the Yankees? Well, first of all, the Yankees and Mets are still in first place.
What?
The Yankees are playing 1998 baseball to remind people of that really great season of baseball, really, for the Yankees and baseball in general, because the Yankees played so well in '98.
Legendary.
But it seems like it's a different type of team, brother. You expected the '98 Yankees to happen after '96 and their failure of '97. You expected them to come back, and they did. And out of all of the Joe Torre years, '98, as much as '96 is the year they won, the '98's the year, if you think about it, because they just won so much.
98 was a special season, and I don't know that anybody expected. I mean, people expected the Yankees to be good in those days because the team that they had assembled clearly was one of the better teams in the league. But I don't know that anybody expected that 98 Yankees team to be the juggernaut that they were and to be as dominant as they were. I mean, that was a team that they didn't have anybody on that team that hit 40 home runs. They didn't have, it was a lot of balance. There was a lot of guys that could do a lot of different things, but there wasn't like this, like, put it this way, there wasn't the Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge this year is having a special season already. And that player, that type of player did not exist on the 98 team because so many guys were incredibly talented players. You had Bernie Williams and Jeter and Posada and Tino and Brocious and Knobloch, and you had an incredible core. And on this team, the core is, I don't even want to say it's just as good, because I'm not sure it is. I don't think it is. But what has made this season's Yankee team so good and so special thus far is they've gotten phenomenal pitching. And that was, for me, that was completely unexpected, because Nestor Cortez has been phenomenal. Luis Severino has gone back to being the guy that we expected him to be before he hurt his arm. Jameson Taillon has become the guy that the Pittsburgh Pirates thought he would be when they made him one of the top selections in the draft years ago, and he was a top 3 or 4 pick. And when you pick somebody in the top 3 or 4, you're expecting that player to become a superstar. And Jameson Taillon finally is pitching like that guy after 2 Tommy John surgeries, and Pittsburgh just getting tired of waiting for him. So when you're looking at that level of pitching that the Yankees are getting, even Jordan Montgomery, who is a 5th starter for the Yankees, but has an ERA in the top 25 or 30 in baseball. When your 5th starter is giving you that kind of contribution, your starting pitching is getting the job done. Of course, Garrett Cole has been Garrett Cole. So, that rotation has been outstanding, and the bullpen has been outstanding. So, my complaint with the Yankees over the years, and probably at least as long as we've been doing this show, has always been, why don't they address the pitching? Why do they keep thinking that getting another bat is going to fix any problems when they're not addressing the pitching? And I think a lot of Yankee fans thought that when they signed Garrett Cole, that was going to be the piece that was missing, but it wasn't, because there were other issues. Severino got hurt, and they didn't really replace him. There were other guys available that maybe the Yankees should have gone after, but didn't. And you can't you can't rely on one starter. It doesn't work. It's never worked. Because if you have one great pitcher and four pretty good or mediocre pitchers in your rotation, your team's not going anywhere. And if there was anything that we learned from the 96 or 98 or 2000 Yankees, is that you need pitching. Because those teams were led by the pitching. That's why they didn't need superstar hitters, even though they had superstars. Obviously, with anytime you have Derek Jeter around, you have at least one superstar. But those teams played good, solid, fundamental baseball. They played good defense. They hit. They got clutch hits. They had enough power, but it wasn't overwhelming power necessarily like this team shows. So, to me, this team has kind of come out of nowhere in terms of nobody expected them to be this good and to just maraud their way through the first 70 or so games, because this team has been outstanding, and I'm not going to sit here and say anything negative just because they split 4 games with the Houston Astros. Yes, they did get no hit the other day on Saturday, but it's 1 loss, and the Astros wound up giving 6, I think it was 6 no-hit innings yesterday as well. So it was like 15 no-hit innings in a row, or 16 with the day before the no-hitter, because I think the last inning they didn't get a hit. But you know what? All that happened. They didn't get a hit for 15 or 16 innings in a row, and they still won a game yesterday because Aaron Judge hit a home run in the 10th inning.
Right.
So, the one thing about this 2022 Yankees team is they're finding ways to win, and they're coming from behind a decent amount of the time. I could probably say a lot, because given compared to other teams, it is a lot. But this is a team that uses all 27 outs, and it's also a team that if you're playing against, you better be ready to play a full game, because this team has shown over and over again that they can win a game in their last at bat. And that you better be ready to go, all 27 outs against them, either that or you're not going to win. And Houston found that out on Thursday, because the Yankees were behind 6-3 going into the 9th inning, and they wound up winning the game 7-6. I'm sure the Houston Astros, a team as good as the Houston Astros are, certainly didn't expect that.
No, not at all, actually. And the fact that they had all those no-hit innings, but then again, there was how many pitchers, Well,
I mean, that doesn't matter. No-hit inning is a no-hit inning. If you're not getting hits, you're not going to win. So that was the issue on Saturday and Sunday. But like I said, the Yankees figured it out. Stanton hit a home run, then DJ LeMahieu in I think it was the 8th inning hit a 2-run home run to tie the game. And then it was, I think the biggest part of that game, though, came back to the pitching, because here they are in the 10th inning, and obviously you have the ghost runner or whatever they call it. I don't know what they call it. I can't wait until they get rid of this thing. But the Astros wound up with the bases loaded, and here comes Michael King, who's been phenomenal pretty much the entire season. He's had 1 or 2 bad outings, but the guy has been unbelievable. He gets out of a bases-loaded jam in the top of the 10th inning. Otherwise, the Astros probably should have scored a couple of runs that inning. So now here come the Yankees, 3-3 in the bottom of the 10th. All they got to do is get a run. So they sacrifice the runner over to third. Then it was a walk. Then it was, I forget. I think LeMahieu wound up striking out. But then now here's 2 guys on for Aaron Judge. So what does Aaron Judge do? Boom, here's a pitch. Here's a pitch in Aaron Judge's wheelhouse. And boom, hits it into the left field seats. Game over.
A true miracle, my brother.
I wouldn't call it a miracle. It's Aaron Judge.
Okay.
That's what he does. What he does, brother. I mean, that's... He won. Well, I shouldn't say he won. He settled his arbitration case with the Yankees on Friday.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, the Yankees are getting a discount because they settled at $19 million, which, hey, I'll tell you what, that's a nice price for an MVP, $19 million these days. But Aaron Judge bet on himself before the season started. He turned down the Yankees offer. It was going to be in the neighborhood of 8 years for $230 million. And Aaron Judge wanted significantly more money. Like, when I say significantly, he wanted another $50 million or so. He wanted somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 years for about $280 million. And the Yankees were like, yeah, we're not doing that. That's a little crazy, and you're just asking for ridiculous numbers. But you know what? Aaron Judge is proving that the Yankees probably should have said yes, or probably should have added at least another $40 million to their offer, because he's putting up a year. And I loved hearing this, and this is how strange this sounded, especially in the quote unquote steroid era. Was that on ESPN last night? They said that Aaron Judge is on pace to break the franchise record for home runs in a season, which of course is Roger Maris with 61. But how long was that the baseball record? And I don't know how many people recognize, Barry Bonds or Mark McGwire or those guys for how many home runs in a season with those ridiculously inflated numbers.
Yeah.
But, I would challenge anybody to say that Aaron Judge isn't doing this clean. So it just struck me as strange to say when I heard them say they break the franchise record. I'm like, yeah, that franchise record is still the record to a lot of people.
Well, it's also the Yankee record. So I mean,
Oh yeah, it's like what I said, franchise record. So it just sounded strange. That's all.
Typical ESPN trying to change the way things go.
Yes.
Max Scherzer, brother, he's almost back. This is going to be great for the Mets.
He was supposed to be back yesterday.
Yeah, but that's why I say he's almost back.
Well, but yeah, he was. I mean, Buck Showalter denied it, but it was out there that Scherzer was supposed to be on schedule to start Sunday, and then he didn't. And Buck Showalter after the game was like, "Well, who said he was going to start?" And it was like, "Well, yeah, maybe you didn't, Buck," but it was kind of like everything was kind of pointing towards Sunday being the day for Max Scherzer. I don't know when he's going to start. I'm not sure if the Mets know when he's going to start, because they might send him out for another rehab start. I'm fairly certain that Max Scherzer doesn't want to do another rehab start. That he would rather be, stay with the Mets and stay with the major league club. But I don't know. I don't know what the Mets are waiting for. I don't know what the delay is. There wasn't really any kind of reason given other than, well, he's not quite ready. Well, if he's not quite ready, then why not let him pitch another rehab game or tell us why he's not ready? But that reason wasn't really given. Maybe the Mets could have used Scherzer on Sunday because they wound up losing 3-2 to the Marlins. Although in basically in the last week and a half, the Mets have played the Marlins 7 games and gone 5-2. And they sandwiched those 2 series around back-to-back losses to the Astros. I mean, right now it's just status quo for the Mets. It's they're playing well, they're winning games. They didn't necessarily look so good against the Astros, but they're playing the Astros again starting on Tuesday. So it's kind of a funky part of the schedule for them because they're going. Playing Marlins, Astros, then Marlins, Astros. So it's like a 2-week span where they're basically playing the same 2 teams.
Makes no sense if you ask me, but
I don't. It's kind of a weird part.
But I was watching ESPN, I think on Saturday, and it was the Dodgers Braves game, and they kept saying, "Well, this is like a preview of the playoffs that's going to might happen." They would like saying, "Okay, guy, I'm not sure."
Did they say that more than once?
Exact playoffs, more than once.
See, I mean, you can get away with saying that once, but you don't even. I mean, are both teams going to make the playoffs? More than likely, I expect the Braves to make the playoffs, but you don't even know if they're going to play each other. So to overuse that line is pretty ridiculous. I don't see the need for it. You're hyping up a game like that doesn't need hype. Freddie Freeman is back playing the Braves. That's enough of a storyline. You don't have to sit here and keep telling people, well, this is probably what you're going to see in the playoffs. What a great game we're watching here. Well, the people know. That's why they're watching.
Speculation,
The people know what they're watching. people know if they tune in and it's the Braves and the Dodgers, you're going to get two good teams, and hopefully you get a good game. But
yes,
TV is just they always just go for the lowest hanging fruit. That's why I don't like television so much.
Well, we got to get you on TV, Tim, so you can then hate everyone else.
I'll tell you what
Plus,
happened.
You're a good-looking guy, Tim. You should be on
that's true
TV.
too. That's true too. I got a face for radio, bro. But I'll tell you what happened with the Mets. Or there was good news for the Mets, bad news for the Phillies. Is happened the other night when Blake Snell of the Padres hit Bryce Harper of the Phillies in the thumb with a pitch and fractured his thumb. So Bryce Harper is out. It's got to be for at least a month. I'm not sure what the prognosis is at this point, but broken thumb. I can't imagine that Bryce Harper is going to be back before August. And you hate to use injuries as a way for your team to have success, but the Phillies without Bryce Harper, I don't see them. I don't see them moving themselves into contention. And they had been playing very good baseball.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Ever since I've been singing his praises ever since he got the job from after the Phillies fired Joe Girardi. But Rob Thompson's done a great job with the Phillies, and to lose his best player and team leader in Bryce Harper because he got hit in the hand with a pitch. And apparently Blake Snell and Harper are friends from Las Vegas. They know each other. And Harper was incensed because the pitch that Blake Snell threw was going towards Harper's head. I don't know. He just lost that pitch completely. But Snell was kind of pointing at Harper and kind of patting himself and say, look, that was me, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do it. And like I said, they know each other. So Harper was like, yeah, I know. But he was going nuts. And he was just because he knew his thumb was badly injured. I don't know that he knew it was broken, but obviously with as much pain as he was feeling, he was just screaming and barking, and he was hot. And I don't know if Snell was like, look, like I know this guy. I'm not going to go out and hit him on purpose, but Harper can be excused for thinking whatever he was thinking and just not having really too many rational thoughts in that moment.
Yeah, good point. We should say that Brittney Griner, WNBA, Griner, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's things happening with her. She's been held in Russia for a long time now.
Too long.
Too long. Hopefully, she's let go soon. It's. You think the Russians would say, you know what, we want to look good for a day or two. We're going to release her. Well,
I mean, they had a preliminary trial this morning over in Russia, which obviously morning in Russia is, I'm not even sure what the time difference is, but it's probably at least 7 hours. So they had it this morning, and a decision has been made to have a start date of her court appearance in Russia for July 1st. Now, a lot of people, or a lot of Americans, I guess I should say, are under the impression that the Russian courts are just going to keep postponing this and putting extensions on it just to hold her as something of a political prisoner. And they so far, I mean, Brittney Griner has been in a Russian jail since February 17th. And the accusation is that she was trying to bring vape cartridges with hashish oil into the country because she played basketball there. She was obviously a star basketball player in the Russian league. And we've discussed this before where, WNBA players a lot of them played in Russia to make money. I mean, they don't make a ton of money from the WNBA and they go overseas during the year to make the money that they're going to make, and then they come back and play in the WNBA for the summer. So the WNBA really is the side job, not the other job. But Brittney Griner was detained going into Russia back in February and has been in prison since then. So the fact that they actually have announced a trial date is encouraging, but it's it's ridiculous what's going on here because, the whole thing about how they found the vape cartridge and it's just very suspect. Let's put it that way. It seems to a lot of people that this is just some sort of political retaliation, for whatever is going on between the two countries right now. But on Monday, the court, it's actually just outside of Moscow, but they extended her detention for another 6 months after she appeared at the preliminary hearing. So, right now, Griner is just, she can't do anything because there hasn't been a ton of contact. The U.S. government is working to try to secure her release. But again, what is Russia's end goal here? Are they using her as some sort of a pawn to maybe get the United States to release, Russians who are in prison here? And that's what a lot of people seem to think. But, it kind of remains to be seen at this point what's going to happen.
If that's the case, make the trade,
Well,
I think depending on who you're getting, of course.
It's not necessarily that easy because if Russia, Brittney Griner is a fairly famous American.
She is an American.
But to keep her allows them to be in the media in America, and for them it's showing that we're the powerful country.
Right. Well,
it's just ego.
We'll see what happens. It's a slow process. I think they're just carrying on for no reason, the Russians. Anyway, brother, that does it for our show. First time on Zoom in about a year. Hopefully we don't have to do this next week. I'll be better. I actually am feeling better now, but it was better that I didn't come in today.
Get your rest, brother. Get your rest.
I'm going to get some sleep.
Uncontagious. Get a nap.
So, might get a nap. I might eat a cheesecake too. So anyway, you're listening to 90.3 WHPC from the press box. This show becomes a podcast later on. We'll see you next week with more of a show at Monday at 9:00. And remember, we're part of the WHPC Sports Talk family, Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., and every Tuesday, 10 p.m. to midnight. Thanks, Sean Novak, for keeping us on the air. Take care. I'm Rob Leonard. He's Tim Leonard. Bye-bye.